Alright, this is going to be the second video. This one's on quadratic equations, and again the test is this Tuesday for the STAR test. So we're going to be working on today are quadratic equations, and quadratic equations are anything that has y equals x squared. Okay, and this has to be the biggest exponent. So whenever you have y equals x squared, all you really got to do is go to your calculator, press y equal to, put x squared, and just look at the graph. It looks like a parabola, that's a u. This part right here is considered the vertex, and the line that cuts it in half is called the axis of symmetry. And since it crosses the x-axis, it's going to be x equals to that number wherever it crosses the x-axis. On this test, the majority of these questions pertaining to quadratic equations will have the word equivalent. Equivalent means that they're equal to something, so you're going to have to compare two quadratic functions. So if I say y equals x squared plus 7x plus 10, and I'm going to ask you if that's equivalent with y equals x plus 5, x plus 2. So whenever it asks you to compare two things, what you should do is remember that they both say y equals. So you can press y equals and pop them both in there. Plus 7x plus 10, x plus 5, x plus 2. Now in order to see if they're equivalent, you just take a look at the table and you notice that all the numbers are the same. Yes, they're equivalent. And that's the majority of the questions on the test, but then make them a little bit harder than that. So what they start doing is they could change the letters. They'll ask you, is this, let's make it Q, is equivalent to this. And if they change the letter, they think they're going to confuse you. But if they change the letter, change it back to an x. No big deal. Another way they could try to confuse you is instead of saying y equals x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals to y equals x plus 5, x plus 2, they'll remove the y equals from the front. And then just give you the expressions. So now, it's exactly the same question, but without the y equal to. A lot of people will not remember to plug them into your calculator. But the concept's real simple. Whenever you're comparing an expression with another expression, even if it doesn't have the y equal to, you can still place them into the calculator under y equal to. One last way they try to be kind of tricky is instead of saying x squared plus 7x plus 10, they'll make it look really crazy. X squared plus 7, x minus 1 plus 7. Minus 8 plus 18. Something like that. And then they expect you to want to go multiply and do all that kind of crazy stuff on it. But this is an expression, and it has an x squared, so all you really got to do is put a y equal to in front of it, and then check to see if it's the same or not. Last type of question that they'll do is they'll give you something that looks like this. And there's a number on this side right here. Now you have two different things that you could do. You could either bring it over here, opposite positive 12 is negative 12, and now solve it by itself. Or you could just leave it like there, plug this in y equals to, and look for 12 in the table under y. Whatever the value over here, that would be x. So these are two different ways to do. One last thing we're going to talk about is when they ask you for the zeros, when they ask you for the roots, what they're really going to be asking for is the x-intercepts. And sometimes when they ask you for the solution, they're usually also asking you for the x-intercepts. But sometimes. And that's pretty much all that we have to do to cover. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to get the test that's in the description center and do these problems. Do these problems. 2, 4, 6, 15, 16, 22, 24, all the way to 54. These are all the quadratic questions on the last year's test. I want you to try them for yourself. Now once you're done, come back to this video. Well, I'll be going ahead and solving all of them for you. Okay? So please go ahead and pause it right now. Do the work, and then come back and watch the video. First question on the test off of the quadratics is question number 2. And in question number 2, they're asking what's equivalent. Remember, equivalent, you're comparing them, see if they're equal to. And we're comparing this with these. Now that's pretty easy. Again, what they did is they try to make it look really weird so you don't recognize that that's a y equal to. But this is an expression, and it does have an x squared in it. So that's 2x squared plus, open parentheses, 4x minus 6x squared plus 9 minus, open parentheses, 6x plus 3. Now, we're going to go ahead and try g and see if that's equivalent with it or not. 4x squared minus 2x plus 6. Once we go to the table, they're all equal to the same each other, so the answer there is G. Now, if the numbers were different, then that would not be the right answer. Next one, we're going to do question number 4. Question number 4, they changed it, and instead of having numbers in front of the x squared and after the x squared, they put letters instead. And then they told you something about the value of these letters. The value of a and c are less than 0, which means these are going to be negative numbers, like negative 2 and negative 6. This becomes minus. So they say, what would that look like? So if we go to the calculator and just graph it, negative 2x squared, if it's in front of the a, it makes it flip upside down. Minus 6 makes it move downward 6 spots. So if I just look at the graph, I can figure out pretty easy. It's face down in the negative aspect of the x-axis, the y-axis. So facing up, this is at 1, that's not more than 0. That's at 0, it's not less than 0. This is the only one that matches. Number 6. Again, they're asking for equivalent. That means we're going to compare two of them together. So we'll start by popping the first one right there. Again, it doesn't say y equal to, but it's an expression. And then let's try h. And when I go to the table this time, they're not the same. Only the first one is the same, but the rest of them are not the same. So the answer number 6 is J. Next is number 15. Again, exactly the same trick, except this time they use the letter Q instead of x squared. So we're going to change it and make it x squared because the calculator doesn't really like Q. Alright, now this is number 15. And just to make time go a little bit faster, we're going to try to answer choice C. And again, you notice all the numbers are, they're not the same. See if I plugged it in incorrectly. So it's 6, that's a 9. Now let's try it. Yep, all the numbers are exactly the same. The answer is C. Okay, next we do question number 16. Question number 16, they actually tell us y equal to, that just means y. And they ask us for the zeros, and remember the zeros are where it crosses the x-axis. So all I got to do is graph it. Negative x squared minus 2x plus 15. And in order to find the x-intercept, zeros means x-intercept. This is the x-axis. It's negative 5 and positive 3. Answer is G. Now notice all the rest of the numbers are very similar, so be careful picking the right answer. Alright, next we're going to do question number 22. They give us an equation, but it uses different letters, so we'll switch the letters to something we're comfortable with, and then we'll plug in the calculator. Once we do so, we can go to the table, and we're looking for 156, and that's right there. The answer is 12. Next we'll do number 24 and 25. First thing they say, you have y equals x squared. So I go to my calculator, put y equals x squared. Then they say, what is the relationship with y equals 7x squared? So I go to my calculator and put the y equals 7x squared. Now I look at them together to see what the relationship is. Here's the first one, x squared. Here's the second one, which is 7x squared, and it became skinnier. Skinnier means narrower. G is the second one. It was narrower than letter F. So the answer there is F. Okay, 25. Which expression is a factor? Now in this case, we can't use the calculator. The reason for that is because when you factor a quadratic expression, you get two expressions, like 18x minus 7 and 6x minus 49. See how you get two of them? In this case, they asked us which one out of those two it is. So we can't check to see if they're equivalent because one of them is missing. They only give us one of these parentheses right there, one factor. In this case, you have to do this one by hand. So do the box method. This is the only time I would say to use the box method. You notice that the x in the middle is missing, so when I add the 2 right there, that should give me a 0. Now, let's try D. 6x minus 7. 6 times 6 is 36. And negative 7 times positive 7 is negative 49. And this will give me a positive 42. This will give me a negative 42. And when I add those together, they give me 0. So the answer there is D. So the tricks that we're showing you will work with the majority of the questions. So they're not going to work with every single one. Number 29, what is the solution here? As you notice, this is a quadratic equation, and it says it's equals to 32. So what I usually do with quadratic equations is I turn them on and go to y equals. Number 2, open parentheses, x minus 7 squared. Now, on the other side of that, it has 32. So I just go to the table. Now look and see, when does it become 32? Oh, right there, at number 11. And it also says number 3, so let me go check that out. Yep, right there as well. So the answer there is C. Now we'll do number 34. What is the maximum value of G? Alright, so for number 34, we're looking for the maximum value. And in order to find the maximum value, you have to find the vertex. Maximum means highest. The highest part of the vertex is right there at 9. Alright, next we'll do number 37. Which statement is true? Again, they ask about the zeros. Remember, 0 is wherever it crosses the x-axis. So I go to y equal to, and put 2x squared minus 3x minus 5. And let's just graph it to see where it crosses the x-axis. Now, it looks like it crosses at negative 1. So that leaves me with A and C. And then it also goes to 5 over 2, that's positive. And there's your answer, C. Next is 41. They say that the vertex is 18 units below the vertex of graph W. So which pair has a vertex that's 18 units below? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph them. Again, instead of y equals, they put qx equals, okay? So that doesn't change the fact because qx means y equal to. We'll start off with letter D, just to make time faster. That's the first one, that's q. That's x squared. And as you notice, this is q, and this is x squared. And you notice that q is 18 below it. Q is 18 below it. So the answer is D. Alright, next we'll do question number 45. They ask you for the zeros. Zeros is wherever it crosses the x-axis. You notice there's two of them, right here and right here. Okay, so obviously these are going to be wrong. 2 and 9, this is 2, 9's over here somewhere, so it's not that. 1/3 is before 1, 3/2 is after 1. The answer there is D. Next we'll do number 49. And again, they asked us for a factor. Remember, there's not usually one factor. Quadratic equation gives me two factors. In this case, one of them is missing. So again, this is one of the only cases you're going to have to use the box method. Here's x squared. Here's negative 5x. Here's negative 6. And you just got to ask yourself, what two numbers will go out to the end right there? So let's try x and negative 6. Let's try A. X times x is x squared. Negative 6 times 1 is negative 6. 1 times x is 1x. Negative 6 times x is negative 6x. And negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. That would actually work. The factors are x plus 1, x minus 6. 2 more to go. The graph represents a function with a domain. Again, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor. So the domain is the x portion of it. So I'm going to draw a box in these and try to locate the x portion of it. Alright, so I'm looking for the domain. That's the x part of it, that line right there, wherever it's being crossed or touched, for something that is greater than or equal to -7 and less than 2. So -7 and 2, there's your answer. The only one that hits that. Last one is number 54. It asks for the area. The area is whenever you take the length, which is 4x minus 4, times the width equals to the area. So again, what we're going to do, that looks like something we can plug into your calculator. Open parentheses, 4x minus 4, 5x plus 4. And we're going to take a look at the answer choices. Let's try this one real quick. 20x squared minus 4x minus 16. And let's see if they're equivalent to each other. And they are. The answer is G. Okay guys, as you notice, there's a lot of questions on quadratic. The majority of them we did with the calculator. There's only 2 that we could not. So if you're able to understand what the word equivalence means and how it works, then you'll be pretty successful in this test, at least in this aspect of it. Good luck on the test.